What's up? Welcome back to Project Freelance. Got another episode for you guys. Thanks to my friend Graham Sheldon, who I actually had on the podcast a little while ago. He created some content over in Chernobyl a couple of years back, and he's a filmmaker, he's a cinematographer, he is a teacher, an educator. I met him through the amazing people over at Sigma Lenses when I did content for them pre-COVID days. I used to film content for Sigma before I moved out to Nashville, and hopefully I get to do some more work with them in the near future. I would love to get more involved with the Sigma family. But this episode, I am speaking with an actor, a producer, a director, speaking to two people this week. This week, we are speaking to America Young and Gonzalo Martin. Very, very excited to speak with them about how they got into freelancing, both in the film side and the acting side, voice acting, video games, all kinds of different stuff. And we are talking about their film that is coming out called Back to Lyla. I will put a link to the trailer down below if you guys want to check it out. Super cool film that they're making. It's a rom-com mixed with like Alice in Wonderland vibes. Gonna be super cool. It comes out June 28th. As of the recording of this, we don't know where it's going to be distributed, but it will be on streaming platform. We just don't know which one. So be on the lookout for that. I will update the show notes if you guys are interested in checking the film out as soon as I get a link to that film. So yeah, definitely stay in touch with me on this episode and come back and check out where you can watch the film if you guys are interested. Before we get into this episode of Project Freelance, just a couple things real quick. If you're listening to this the week of June 1st, first of all, my birthday is on the 5th, so happy birthday to me. It is Pride Month. Happy Pride Month. Super stoked about that. Well, it's actually like Pride season, if you will. Pride kind of goes from June 1st to like the end of July, really. So it kind of like makes its way across the United States, but it is Pride season. So happy Pride to everybody out there that is in the community. Love you guys. Hope you're doing well. I do need to thank our partner on this podcast, Liquid Death Mountain Water. If you've never heard of Liquid Death, well, hey, get ready to murder your thirst with a nice cold can of water. If you're tired of using plastic water bottles and destroying the planet, there's a better way. There is canned water from Liquid Death. If you want to give it a shot, if you are on set and you're tired of wasting plastic water bottles, if you're looking for a better way, if you're a bartender, a bar owner, and you're looking for a better way, check out liquiddeath.com. Use code JUSTTHELETTERK for 10% off your order. You could literally order 50 cases of water and get 10% off your order with my code JUSTTHELETTERK. Just do it. It's better for the planet. They give part of their proceeds back to cleaning the ocean, which is awesome. So thank you to Liquid Death for partnering with me on all the things that I do. Thank you for supplying water to my band Matriarchs whenever we go on tour here in America. Super stoked for that partnership. The second thing I need to let you know about is that I have a new book out called How to Explore Abandoned Buildings. You see, when I'm not freelancing or making music, I'm actually exploring abandoned places. So I made a guidebook called How to Explore Abandoned Buildings. It's super cool. I teamed up with a digital artist out of Portugal named Mr. Sketch. He's known as Cursed Sketchbook on Instagram if you want to check out his stuff, but he actually illustrates over top of images of abandoned places. So we teamed up to create this awesome book together. Super happy about it, and it turned out amazingly. I have 50 copies at my house that are ready to be signed and sent to you. It will also be available in places like Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, different brick and mortar bookstores. So if you are out and about and you happen to hear this podcast and you're like, hey, I want to check this book out and don't want to order it online, you can actually order it in stores starting this July. Otherwise, if you do want a signed copy right now, I am signing them and sending them out all over the world. I ship internationally. I ship domestically. Wherever you are, I will send you a book and a signed photo print as a way of saying thank you for supporting me. Lastly, I just want to say thank you for listening to Project Freelance. If you guys like this show, if you like this episode, let people know there's a way to do that. You can leave a rating and feedback on Apple Podcasts. You can leave a rating on Spotify. Wherever you're listening to this, there's probably a rating system, and that actually helps the podcast find a broader audience. It helps us find more people. It helps us find more guests. So if you guys could leave a rating and feedback, please do that. It helps the podcast grow. It helps other freelancers like yourself find this show. So thank you for listening. Without further ado, I'm just going to roll into this conversation that we had because we kind of started it on music and then we went into the actual episode. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce America and Gonzalo to you guys. Welcome to Project Freelance.
Hey, my name is America Young and I am a freelance director for film and television and video games.
And I am Gonzalo Martin, and I'm a freelancer. I don't know in what capacity I would say specifically, just because like every other freelancer out there, we kind of pretty much do everything and anything that is out there to grab. We wear many hats, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. So let's start with America. So tell me how you first got into freelancing and like what made you want to go down the path that you're on?
Well, I started off not freelancing. I actually applied to med school and got accepted, which is like not a freelance job as a rule. You're usually pretty contracted with those things. And then I decided that I really wanted to tell stories for a living instead. And I decided not to go. I delayed my acceptance to med school and I moved out to Los Angeles. And I think the minute you make the decision that you're going to be a storyteller, whether it's through music or whether it's going to be through film, television, theater, you're automatically accepting the free mantle or the freelancer mantle, because it's really hard to find a regular job as a professional storyteller for whatever reason. And I don't know if that goes back to like the days of the bards who would travel around and tell their stories. So it wasn't necessarily a conscious thought, although the one thing that did excite me was the idea of not having the same job every single day. That it did excite me to always be meeting new people and never knowing what to expect. And I moved around a lot as a kid, so maybe that goes hand in hand in terms of just like what I got used to and what I loved. I loved going to new places and meeting new people constantly. I don't know if that was a conscious decision to do freelance, but it was a conscious decision to be a storyteller, which I think does go hand in hand.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. So I grew up traveling a lot. I lived overseas when I was 16, grew up in the Middle East, lived in Australia for a bit. And I think that the innate nature of us wanting to tell stories, I think we definitely relate on that. I'm like a documentary filmmaker and loves telling stories, and people always ask me why, and I'm like, well, everyone's got a story. There's 8 billion stories out in the world that need to be told, and if I can tell like a fraction of them, like I feel like I'm fulfilling my purpose on the earth.
Absolutely. And I also have found that like a story is the quickest way between two people who are strangers, right? Like you ask somebody, hey, where'd you get your ring? And then the story they tell you about the reason why they chose to wear that ring and where they got it, even if it's just, I was just in the mall and I liked it. I thought it was cool. Like whatever that is the quickest way to make a new friend.
Absolutely.
And so it's the small stories and it's the big stories, and the stories, for documentaries, or the stories for like an epic blockbuster, or the stories just for conversation. There's such power in them. It's the quickest way to empathy. So you get it.
Totally
you get it.
And Gonzalo, for you, like, how did you get into the freelancing world? What did you start out doing? What did you want to be as a kid, and how'd you get to where you are now?
Well, thank you. Thank you for asking. It's fascinating to me because I was hearing both of your answers, and I find it quite, interesting that we, as freelancers, all three of us, we share so many things in common as creatives and storytellers. Like I was listening to your stories, and we all kind of share a similar story. I also kind of grew up all over, moving and traveling, and as a kid, I, had many different passions. My main one, I was supposed to go to Florida and study aeronautical science, but on my final performance in the school drama play, that's when I realized that I was a storyteller, and that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. But again, similar to America, I was in love with the other thing that I was passionate about, flying and being a pilot and all that, but it was exciting when I decided to go for the arts. It was a world that I still hadn't explored as much, and I didn't know as much, especially coming from Argentina to here. And so it was very, very new to me, and quite amazing in so many different ways that I didn't expect, yet very surprising in others. The industry can be hard, but at the same time, it's the hustling of the freelancer. So it's since I got here, I definitely got to learn by force how to be a freelancer and a storyteller. That's definitely different from the way that, you probably do it in different countries.
Yeah, definitely. And, I've had people on the show from all over the world that do freelance in, different regions of the world, and even down to like the amount of money you're making is different, like every little detail is different in different countries. And so it's been fascinating to get to know people like yourselves that have been, world travelers and have been a part of the hustle for some time. I think it's such a fascinating thing to get to know people through a medium like podcasts, because you get to know the people behind the scenes. Like, for example, you guys have a film coming out, and I would love to dive into that film and talk a little bit about it. But before that, how did you guys get into filmmaking? Like, how did you guys get to know each other, first of all?
Well, can I ask you a question, Kate, real quick? Because I can't wait to answer that question. But do you find that in different countries, the freelancing position is treated with different levels of respect?
I've gotten to know a couple people. Like, for example, I've spoken to like a couple different graphic designers and NFT artists, actually. So I recently had a guy on from Russia, and they're definitely treated a little bit differently there as freelancing goes. Like they're not seen as like
cockroaches.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I'll put it this way. Before COVID, my dad always said, like, when are you going to get a real job? Up until like a couple of years ago. Right. And then when COVID hit, and like I thrived as a freelancer, I'm sure you guys can say the same. During that time, freelancers adapted faster than anybody else. And we put our heads down and we grinded because we had to keep making money, because we had to keep paying rent. We had to keep doing things.
We're so much more adaptable because we're used to having to adapt on a daily basis.
Absolutely. And a lot of us were already working from home. So that question of like, when are you going to get a real job kind of went out the window when everyone started working from home and started technically becoming freelancers themselves.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. That's fascinating.
So I feel like people in other countries outside of America, they still have that. And maybe it's changed after COVID, but the person I talked to was like during COVID, and when he was like definitely making less money than he would make here, as a freelancer. Yeah. But I don't know if it's changed, but I feel like they still have the mentality of when are you going to get a real job?
Right.
In other countries,
which is so interesting, because like so much of this industry, or so much of our American culture, and there's an eye roll when I say that, is the American dream, and like going out and hustle and like building your own thing. So much about what the freelancer is that directly, but then the other part of it is get a real job, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But like for the longest time, I've always referred to us as cockroaches, not insultingly, but like as a compliment, because like
we're resilient.
We're resilient, and a nuclear holocaust or a pandemic can't stop us. If anything, it supercharges us, right? It makes us mutant cockroaches. So I think there's something so incredible about what we do, because it's a day-to-day hustle, the constant rejection. We're going on 1 million job interviews every single week, right? And getting rejected from a lot of them. Yeah. And then the way that we constantly are pivoting and constantly negotiating the day-to-day life, I think is pretty incredible. But unless you're doing it, it seems like get a real job. It seems like you're slacking, because then people don't get it.
Right. People think we're just messing around all day, and like just tinkering on our computers. But no, we're looking for leads. We're hunting jobs. We're applying for acting gigs. We're doing all the things. And Gonzalo, can you talk a little bit about your like acting career and how that took off for you and blossomed after your high school play and that kind of stuff?
Absolutely. So after graduating, like I said, I realized, well, actually I didn't realize, it was my whole family who came to see me on the play, who after it, they were just, they literally all said, stop fucking around with airplanes and do this for a living. And after and I was like, at first I thought it was a joke, but then after my relative number 40th said it, something clicked in my brain, and I couldn't sleep all weekend, and then I was like, why don't I do this for a living? That's when I started considering it, and luckily my family was very supportive, and when I made the switch, so I came out from Argentina to LA to study acting. I studied in New York Film Academy. And after graduating, which I loved my school, it was an excellent experience for me. I was very fortunate to get a manager pretty quick and start booking right away, which that just allowed me on my first couple of years of acting to gain enough credits to do all the different type of visas that you're supposed to get as a foreign artist here in order to stay in this beautiful country. So it was definitely a lot of hard work, a lot of it. But luckily, from role to role, everything, started leading. One role led to the other, and it eventually culminated in me landing a role in a video game called Life is Strange 2, for which I won a BAFTA Game Award. And with that, I was able to apply for my green card. And so now I'm finally here as an artist, able to stay in this amazing country. But the cool thing that I've learned through this journey is that, I'm not just an artist, I'm not just an actor, but I am a freelancer and I'm a producer. And then I've discovered how much I've liked this freelancing hustle of you having to constantly create opportunities for yourself and make the next move in order to really prove that you want to stay here, So that whole journey of having to prove my worth and wanting to stay here has allowed me to discover different passions that I never would have considered, like producing or freelancing different jobs and different projects. So right now I don't do acting anymore. I don't just do acting anymore. I am now, with my hand in many, many pies, all of them related to freelancing. But yeah, I've discovered that not only do I like to act, but I love to produce. I love to create projects, put projects together, build teams to make a project a reality, which is at the end of the day, that's pretty much what freelancing is about. And that's what I've discovered.
Yeah, and so okay, as the lead in Life is Strange, Sean Diaz, what was that like to take on such
how
an
do you know my
role?
character's name?
Dude, listen, dude. I don't have time for video games, but when I play a video game, I'm fully invested in the game, okay?
So you play the game?
Yeah, dude, it's so fun, and it's episodic for people that don't know. It's it's split up in what, five episodes?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh
so
God,
it's an episodic game, and if people haven't checked it out, definitely go check out Life is Strange 2. It did win the BAFTA award for lead role. Congratulations on that. But what was it like to get out of physical acting and do a voiceover project?
Oh, it was crazy. It was crazy, especially because I did not expect it at all. When I was in school, in acting school, and we were doing voiceover training, I was never really the best at creating new voices or anything like that. Also with the language barrier, I would also always have some sort of accent or just small stuff that would make the teacher not really believe in me, let's say. And so I wouldn't get as much time in the booth. And, that kind of disencouraged me. So I was like, okay, maybe voice acting is just not for me and I'll be a camera actor. But when I booked this voiceover gig, which was my first voiceover gig ever, I literally was at the studio in front of the director and the producer. And I think it was my first day in after I got casted. And I was like, are you sure you guys want me? Because this doesn't seem normal to me. I was this terrible student in voiceover class. The teacher didn't even give me time in the booth. Are you guys sure you want me? And they're like, yeah, no, we want you. We love you for the youthfulness of your voice. And that's when I discovered and learned that oh, it's not all about, making a weird fun voices or it can be about just the acting and the core and soul behind the acting. It doesn't have to be just a fun voice that it's nice to hear, and when I realized that voiceover acting was more even more related to acting than camera acting is more related probably is not the right word, maybe harder.
Yeah, more intense.
Yeah, more intense because you're in a room with nothing to work off of except right. A tennis ball, or not even that. I only have the mic. And yet you have to pretend you have all these people around you and all these things are happening to you. My voiceover director, he put it in a great way. It's easy to be Batman when you're wearing the Batman suit and you have the Batmobile right next to you and Michael Caine is talking to you, giving you your lines. it's 10 times harder to be Batman, where you don't have anything on you and all you're working off of is a mic, and you have to recreate to the audience that you're Batman and you're in this situation that you're about to, solve crime. You know what I mean? So definitely it was quite amazing to realize that it's a form of acting that I had very little training on, and it requires so much more training than normal acting. So it really pushed me. It was an amazing challenge for me because, again, first voiceover gig, and the director, he had won BAFTA's award for his work already. So he had his own bar set pretty high. So he was very, very demanding. And, at first it was kind of a rough relationship because we didn't understand each other. Until I finally did a thing that he recommended. I went and slept on the streets based on a little recommendation of his. And finally, after doing that is when I gained his respect. And I also started respecting him more because I understood where he was coming from, the directions that he was giving me.
You slept on the streets to prepare for the role, Sean?
I did. I did for a weekend. And it was the worst weekend ever because I chose the weekend. I chose a weekend in February in LA, which is the 1 month in the entire year where it pours down rain. And I was soaked, so cold. It was quite an experience that I learned a lot from. Honestly, probably one of the best experiences of my life that I learned from. And the crazy part is, the next day after sleeping on the street, I go back into the studio. The director, we were having this terrible relationship because, we didn't understand each other and we were working really slowly. I was, not getting the takes as fast as we needed them to. And after sleeping on the street, I just go in and he's like, all right, let's see if we can get anything good in this recording. And I just started, no, he was kind of a prick, but long story short, we start going for the takes and I start giving him all keepers on the one takers. And he stops the recording. He's like, what did you do? And I said, what do you mean? He's like, you usually suck at this. We're here, we take around 7 to 8 takes for each line. And now you're giving me all one takers, all keepers. What did you do? And that's when I told him I took your advice. I went to the street, and he didn't believe me for a while until he finally realized that I wasn't lying. And I felt like that was the day that I got his respect. And also that day is when I realized when I was finally getting all these keeper takes on one take, that's when I realized the difference in my work. I was like, oh, this is what he was talking about. This is the one take performances that are really good. Not the shit that I was doing before. I really needed to go to the street and sleep and learn from this in order to actually do my best work. I know that going method isn't something that everybody approves of and likes or enjoy, but it was life-changing for me, and it definitely helped me a lot on my role, which ended up giving me the BAFTA. So I'm incredibly grateful and proud for it, and I'd do it again any day.
Wow. Okay, so as a documentary filmmaker, I wish I had been there to film you sleeping on the streets getting into this role. That's the kind of stuff that I'm why was nobody filming this?
Especially for the behind the scenes of the game, because it's this is incredible. This is a committed performer.
Yeah.
I think method is fine. Method, there's a bunch of different definitions of method, but as long as it doesn't mean hurting someone else while you're shooting because you can't break character,
right.
I think method is really interesting if there's experience you've never had,
Yeah, I just want to say one last thing, and this is how to respect, because I really do appreciate him. I called the director a prick. I know that I didn't say his name, but if we can just somehow either mute that out or cut it out, he's not a prick.
Sure.
We had a bad relationship to start off, but even today we really like each other. We stay in contact. Whenever the BAFTAs are going on, I always shoot him a text saying thank you so much for the work that we did together. I loved working with him, and he was a director that definitely taught me so many different things. And if it wasn't for him, of course it was my work as well that got me there. But I don't think I would have gotten as far as I've gotten and won the BAFTA if it wasn't for his amazing directing. So I didn't mean to call him a prick or anything like that. He's actually really
I
nice.
got you. I'll edit that out. But yeah, no, thank you for like clarifying and clearing that up. But I get what you mean about like working with people that are, not on the same page as you sometimes, and how it can come off for sure.
Yeah, and people who challenge you to push through levels, like at the time it might seem like they're being, sometimes they are jerks, but sometimes they're just pushing you to go to the next level that they know you're capable of,
Right, exactly. And it was kind of like that, like to finish off the story, we would be recording and I would be taking so many takes to get a good take. And it was my first voiceover gig. And so he would tell me like, we need to go faster or else like we can't, the budget on this production doesn't allow us to like record with you as long as we need to because you take so long in getting good takes. So like you need to get better. And that's when he said like, well, because I was just sucking, he was kind of mean and he said, you're probably a golden platter baby. Everything in your life has been handed to you in a golden platter. You've never had to fight for anything. You never had to like work yourself for anything. I bet you couldn't even like go to the streets one day and hang out with the homeless people without having breakfast one day just so you can see what it's like to be out there. So he started talking all this shit where in my head I was like, motherfucker, you have no idea who I am or what I'm willing to do for my work. I'm not going to only go out there and hang out with the homeless. I'm going to go out there and sleep with them just so I can fucking shut you up and prove you wrong. And so spite was what actually got me to push to that. But it was him giving me that spite to push me to that next level.
Exactly. Yeah. And, sometimes that's what it takes to get you to do the work or to like, get into the role or whatever it is, whatever his methodology was behind that. It worked clearly, and look at where it got you now. And it's super sick that you actually took the step and the initiative to actually go do that. It was out of spite, but I mean, like like you said, it was life changing, So I think it's great that you did that.
Maybe it wasn't spite. Let's say it's stubbornness. It was out of stubbornness, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's talk about this film you guys are putting out together. First of all, how did you two get in contact with each other? How did you guys meet?
Well, yeah, sure. This industry, everybody knows everybody. I mean, especially if you've been here for a while. So it was just a mutual friend put us in contact with each other, thinking that like knowing the script that he had and knowing that I like the kind of script that was, we got put in contact and it was just an instant. We just respected each other instantly. I remember the first time I met with him, it was at a coffee shop. And the questions that he was asking were so open and so honest and so genuinely without ego and just wanted to make the best possible movie. And it was interesting because like, you were a kid, Gonzalo, right? Like how old were you?
It was 3 years ago or 4. So
you were really a kid.
21, 22. I mean, I would say today, in retrospect, I would say I was a kid.
Yeah, but there was also he's so unbelievably smart. But it's so interesting because you meet. I have found that age has nothing to do with who you are as a person. Like you will meet 8-year-olds who have the wisest souls, and then you'll meet 60-year-olds that are just immature jerks. And I remember meeting him and being amazed at how wise he was, and the lack of ego was what really impressed me because I mean Gonzalo is an incredibly attractive kid. If you look at him, like he's so, and then when you first meet him, you're like, oh, this guy's going to be a jerk, right? Because you meet somebody who's not attractive and you're like, they're just assumptions you make. And this is going to be a spoiled, like handsome guy who doesn't anyway, I don't know if you know that, Gonzalo. I don't think I've ever told you that, but that was my first perception of you when I looked you up and when I saw you. And then he opens his mouth and he starts to talk and his questions are so thoughtful and they're so without ego and they're so genuine. And I was interested in the project already because the script was wonderful. Memo wrote an amazing script. But then when I met him and I knew that he was going to be the lead of it, I was just like, okay, this is going to be a good journey. I knew it instantly from meeting him. Yeah.
America, you just touched my heart. I didn't know that story.
Yeah, I don't think I ever told you that story. It's true, though. It's true.
Oh, nice.
I love that. So tell me a little bit more about the film. I watched the trailer. I think it looks incredible, and I feel like it's gonna have that sense of longing romance, like a rom-com, but it's got that like touch of comedy in there that everyone I think is gonna love, and I can't wait for the film to come out. So tell me a little bit more about the film. Well, tell the audience about the film if they haven't seen the trailer yet.
Gonzalo, do you want to talk about it?
I want you to talk about it because I then want to say what's my favorite thing about our film based on one thing that you just said.
Okay. So it's our film is kind of a little bit hard to describe because there's a lot that's not in the trailer. But I like to say it's a little bit like Alice in Wonderland meets Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. There's a lot of unexpected things in the movie. The premise of the film is Mark, who's just been dumped by the love of his life, then finds out that he has a medical condition like a tumor in his brain. Which means that he might be dying soon. And it also means that he's going to have, all these hallucinations, and he's going to be, life is going to be a little weird from him because it's going to affects his heart, and it affects his brain, his eyes and his brain and stuff. So while he decides to go and get closure from the love of his life with his four best friends that he hasn't seen in a while, he also is having all these weird hallucinations as he's going along. And the hallucinations are, we tried to make them pretty specific to his journey and representative of what he's going through in his journey. So it adds a little bit of a magical bend to it without it being magical.
Wow.
And it's really beautifully done. What I really loved about the script is, because I'm trying to talk about this without doing spoilers, is that overall, I think the best romantic comedies or romances is, yes, when you find the love of your life, but more importantly, when you realize that is you. And that you do love yourself and you have the courage to be yourself. Yeah. Especially in a time, always. I mean, this has always been since the history of man. Everyone's been afraid to be who they really are. Yeah. And I think in a lot of ways nowadays, we're accepting that, and there's more and more acceptance of it, of people being who they are and who they want to be in the purest sense of the word. But we have so long to go. And what I love about this journey is initially it starts with him looking for answers outside. And ultimately it ends up with him finding the answers inside and him embracing who he is fully and loving himself for that.
Wow.
And that's the most important message I think we could ever learn.
That's magical.
Bummer. You just took my answer.
Oh, sorry, man. I didn't mean to.
No, don't worry about it. I was just going to say something similar to that. My favorite thing about our film is that people may go into it expecting, just another rom-com, classic, boy meets girl story. And yeah, sure, it has a little bit of that like any other movie. But I think what I love about our movie and really makes it stand out of any other, feel-good movie or feel-good rom-com is that, sure, it is a love story, it's a rom-com, but it's not so much a love story about boy meets girl. It's about love story about boy discovers himself in the process of, trying to get his girl back, but it's more about, discovering yourself and who you are as a person. And that's definitely what I love most about our film. It's not only like a love story, but it's a personal love story for everyone. I feel like a lot of people are going to be able to relate to Mark, our main character, and his own personal journey.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it sounds incredible and sounds so exciting as far as like, the magical element of it. Like it sounds like it's going to be quite a unique film. And where can people watch this when it comes out? When does it come out, first of all, and where can people find it?
It comes out on June 28th of this year. The where is still kind of TBD. Okay. Maybe hopefully by the time this comes out, we'll have links for you to be able to post below. But the distributor is still negotiating with a bunch of the different platforms. And so as far as I know, I don't know which ones have been completely secured. So I want to say yet, and then misdirect someone. So sure. We can send you the links, but it'll be on a streaming platform. It won't be in theaters. And we're really excited for people to see it. We're really proud of it. And there's a lot of freelancers who worked on it. So that ties in directly.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I love that you guys went with the freelance route, for this and kind of kept it close to your hearts with the world of freelancing. I think that that's important as freelancers, that we utilize other freelancers for our projects. And, I do the same. I go through freelancers for the artwork for my band's music. I'm working with somebody right now. I'm actually doing a country goes metal cover record. So
What?
I moved to Nashville and I was like, I need to make some country songs heavier. So, yeah, we're working.
That can go both ways. They might take your songs and make them go country.
Right. Hey, that would be cool. I would love to hear someone take my songs and make them twangy.
Yeah, man.
That sounds great. Oh, wow. So, I want to ask you guys one final question, and America, we'll start with you.
Sure.
What is something you know now that you wish you knew when you started as a freelancer?
Keep good records.
Oh my God.
Have a working knowledge of a good spreadsheet. Because when you get to the end of the day and you have a million W-2s and 10,000 1099s coming at you, that can be super stressful. But if you are logging them as you get them, with your gross and your net receipts in your thing, you won't have the most stressful tax season ever, because you'll be able to track what everything is and you'll know what you're missing. That would be the big thing. And then as freelance, always make sure you're giving the people you're hiring good food.
All right. So, Gonzalo, for you, what is something you know now that you wish you knew when you started?
I would definitely say, as a freelancer, whenever you're going to go work with other people, find out who you're working with, look them up, reach out to people. If they've worked with people that reach out to them, and figure out, how was their working relationship and everything like that. Because it's, in everything, no matter the industry that you're in, could be filmmaking, could be, any other industry. Like I was about to say like law or whatever, but that's not freelancing. But anyways, any type of freelancing community and like jobs where you're going to be working with other people, you always want to make sure who you're working with, get recommendations and references. That way you make sure that you have the best experience in your freelancing project, because we all know that freelancing to start with is not easy. So if you're going to go ahead and do it, why not do it with a great team instead of one that, might put, sticks in your wheel? Or I don't know if you have that saying in here, but in Argentina we do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just basically that, make sure that you figure out who you're going to work with, because freelancing on the one hand can be amazing because you can meet incredible people. Like I ended up meeting America, and they become family and you want to work with them for the rest of your life. And then there's always the people that you're like, oh wow, I had a terrible experience. I don't want to work with that person ever again because I know better now. So that's basically what I learned as a freelancer.
I second that. That's great advice. There's so many times you'll see someone on their resume and they'll be like, oh, you worked with so-and-so. Oh, you're going to be great. Definitely check with the so-and-so who they worked with.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Because just because they're on the resume doesn't mean that was a pleasant experience.
Yep.
And anyway, I have a very specific story I can tell about that, but I think we're running out of time. Always double check with people that you know and love, if this person has worked with them, whether you're going to work with them or for them or hire them. Always double check that.
Yep. I third that. I agree completely. Yeah. I mean, I also have a very specific story I could share.
Yeah.
I mean, dang, I just did we all deal with that. We all go through the rigmarole of having to deal with not so great clients or not so great freelancers. And so you're right. Definitely vet the people you're about to work with, because like that will tell you everything you need to know about them for sure.
Yeah.
Like,
and
absolutely.
I mean, not to push your podcast a little bit further, but I've something interesting that popped into my head just now talking about this subject that I think would be interesting to debate really shortly amongst us three is the idea, how they say, don't hire your friends, like as a freelancer, don't hire your friends. I don't know. There's a part of me that, in this movie, I did have a couple of friends that, I was like, hey, I want to give you this opportunity. And so I did hire them. And I would say with most of them, if not all of them, I had great experiences, and I'm like, yeah, I loved working with my friend. But I've heard, other stories, or, I've had other experiences where I did hire a friend or whatnot. And, it's tricky and difficult because you have a certain expectation of your friend, given that you know them and they're your friend. And then if they fall short, you're kind of like, oh, well, I could have given it to someone that would have wanted it more. But I don't know. I wanted to bring this up and talk it a little bit about with both of you guys, because me personally, I'm also learning as a freelancer. And a part of me, in a future project would hire a friend, but I have learned also not to hire friends. So I wanted to hear from you guys, from your experiences as freelancers, if you would hire a friend in a future, project or something like that. What has your experience been?
Yeah.
I mean, think it depends on what that friend is to you. I mean, is that your party friend? Because then maybe that's not your friend that you can rely on to be a professional, maybe. If it's the friend that you have because you have mutual goals and interests and professionalism and focus, then yeah, absolutely bring that friend on. Don't hire a shitty friend. That's what I would say. Hire someone who will be able to be a professional and work really hard. Will appreciate it. What were you going to say, Kay?
I was going to say there's this saying that goes, you are the culmination of the 5 closest people to you. And I think if you're not surrounding yourself with the 5 best go-getter people that will push you and help you get to the next level, change those 5 friends.
Yeah. I love that. I love that so much.
And I think that ties into this so well because, I just went through an experience with somebody that I had as a friend that I was like, I'll give you a shot at this, and then he definitely let me down a lot in the situation, and it kind of made the experience for the whole team not great. And so now I know that friend is not a friend that I need to hire. That's a friend that I need to have as in a different capacity.
Party friend.
So yeah, essentially, I think that it depends on the friend and America said, what they're doing for you, what they're getting out of it, what you're getting out of it, what you expect from them. Like you said, you need to set your expectations at the beginning and make sure that friend is capable of meeting those expectations.
Right.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's great. And that 5, what did you say? What about the 5?
You're the culmination of the 5 closest people to you. So if you're not elevating each other, get 5 new friends.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
That was I don't remember who said that. I don't remember who came up with it, but it was one of those things that really stuck with me over the years. And I've always tried to surround myself with those 5 people that are going to push me to the next level and that will grow with me, that are mutually trying to help each other. And I think that's important to have that in your team, and so thank you guys so much for coming on Project Freelance. I appreciate you taking the time. If people want to get in touch with you guys, if they want to pick your brain some more, maybe get involved with you in a freelance capacity, first of all, America, where can they find you?
They can find me on my website, americayoung.com, or they can find me on any of the social medias at America_young. And I don't know when this is going to air, but it is June 1st. So I'd like to say Happy Pride Month.
Yes, thank you. And Gonzalo, where can people find you?
Yes, they can check out my website at gonzalomartin.me. And if not, if they wanted something more personal, they can find me on Instagram at I'm Gonzalo Martin.
What's up, guys? Thank you for listening to this episode of Project Freelance with my guests, America and Gonzalo. If you guys want to check out their social media or their websites, I've put links down below in the description for you. If you want to see what I'm up to, you can follow me on Instagram, on TikTok, YouTube, wherever you want. My beacons.ai link is down in the description as well. You can follow all my social media, see where I am in the world. If you're listening to this, I might actually be in Europe on tour with my band Matriarchs right now. So yeah, let me know what you guys thought about the podcast. Subscribe if you're new. If you like the show, please leave a rating and feedback on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. You can leave ratings now, which is awesome. It helps the podcast grow and it helps other freelancers just like you find us. So thank you for listening to another episode. If you want to come on Project Freelance, you can hit me up on Instagram or Twitter at Project Freelance and we'll get you on the schedule. Stay strong, keep enduring. I'll talk to you guys next week. See ya.